Welcome back to Sunrise Today. We're continuing our focus on ensuring violence-free elections. Retired Colonel Tony Nyam joins us now to give us his perspective on this matter. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Well, already getting lots of reports that are unfavorable ones about not just threats now, but people being killed and all because of elections. You're observing the situation yourself. You've seen what's going on. What do you think of this?
It's very sad that our politicians are not learning by the examples we've seen in Mali. What I see is similar to what one saw in Mali. In Mali, there was insurgency in the north. The politicians couldn't handle the insurgency. The military came in. They couldn't handle it either. Now, what one sees is that everything is virtually do or die in action. It's as if I can't have my way, the system must be broken down. It's dangerous precedence. And against the background of the extent of illegal arms in the hands of non-state agencies or people, it's all very tight for us. I think the political leaders must realize that they have a responsibility.
Let me butt in, pardon me for that. How are we really sincere? And if so, do our actions say we are? Because before these arms even got into the country, there are several routes, several ways. There were reports about arms coming through. What did we do? Did we do enough to ensure that we cut off these arms coming into the states?
First of all, the arms are already here. All I'm saying is that political leaders need to realize that if they overplay their part, we may have a situation that may sweep the politicians themselves away, as we saw in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, in Congo, Central African Republic.
Do they believe they will be swept away if they go to another country and just...
Do they believe that they will be swept away?
That's it. Do they have that mindset that, well, I will lose or I'll be swept away, or they feel, no, I'm not going to lose anything? Because if somebody feels he's going to lose something, wouldn't they act differently?
That is it. And that is why those of us who are onlookers or the electorates should be careful not to be used and dumped when it really matters. I think it's very sad because where, for example, I see in Okrika, people being attacked. That is, the APC is supposed to be doing its campaign being attacked. And then I see also the president's convoy being attacked in Katsina and in Bauchi.
I'm even getting reports in Lagos, attacks also.
No, in Bauchi, and of course, what one sees is that, you see, this leads to provocations of each other's sides. And I think the politicians need to really, they don't realize that they're pushing things to the brink and to the point where it may be dangerous for themselves. What is even worse is that there's the physical violence, but also the verbal violence, which is, for example, I'm so amazed that politicians are dragging, for example, national security agencies and the army into what is not theirs. Now, this dragging the military or the national security agencies into what is their problem, in a way undermines one of the main foundations of the state. And if you do that, then who would then enforce the non-violent situation we all crave for.
Where have they been dragged into this?
Where the military has been dragged into?
Yes.
First of all, take the case of the allegations as to do with certificate or no certificate of the APC candidate. It wasn't the military that was mentioned. Someone swore an affidavit and said he gave his credentials to the military. Then there was a call for the military to come and state whether the affidavits were not given. It wasn't the military's fault to do that. The candidate should have presented all his credentials. And when the military eventually did, they were now described in some adverts, things, as a military wing of the PDP. That, to me, I think, is dragging the military into something that is not their business. And by the way, I have an advert here where because I find that very offensive, where you start dragging the military. See, it says, how can the military say Buhari certificate is not with them, yet they were able to provide the grades contained in the certificates? Do we have a professional military in the service of Nigeria or a military service of JEJ? Do we have the military institution or a military wing of the People's Democratic Party?
What's wrong with the first question? If you have grades and you say you don't have a copy, there's a question, and I think in a civil society like Nigeria, you can ask questions.
Yes.
And I also think that such advertorials, as you have said, the military as a great institution that should not be messed with,
yes,
or even degenerate into getting into politics,
sure,
as they have been accused.
Sure.
What can they do in the case of such questions coming on the pages of newspapers from some quarters, specifically maybe the APC, who think that the military has taken sides in all of this?
No, first of all, Suleiman, it wasn't the military's, it's not their duty. You see, every candidate, and especially a general...
No, I'm saying that since
no,
they already have this mindset, the APC already have this mindset
yes,
towards the military, how can they get this cleared once and for all?
No, my point is that that mindset is dangerous in itself, in that you are pulling a people, because as far as I'm concerned, the military came out clearly to state their case, that this certificate, we don't have this, we don't have that. And for me, who's been in the military, and of course, like Buhari, who had an experience where my documentations and papers were taken from my house after my involvement in what people call coup, which both of us seems to have. The difference being that I did not take part against an elected government, he took part against an elected government. Our documents, my certificates were taken. But if I want my certificates, I go to the examining board. It's as simple, because we are all trained in the act of complying with procedures, and that's why military is best in keeping to standard operational procedures. I'm very surprised why all this going on. A very respectful man, Buhari, should have as well gone to his examining board and presented this thing. And now, to be dragging the military into it is what I find sad, because the military does not keep anybody's credentials.